Hello, my peeps, and welcome back to Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves. I'm your host, Ike, and before I speak any faster, I'd like to just take a moment and say thanks for being here and giving this pod a listen. It means a lot that you chose to use your precious time and give me and my guest your ears. Now, if after this lovely episode, if you have the wherewithal, it'd be really cool if you shared this with someone who you think would like it, or just subscribe yourself if you already haven't. That'd be awesome. And if you want to tell me what parts of the show you were passionate about, peeved you off, or just say hi, you can always reach me at twitter.com at likeikes and passionandpeevespodcast at gmail.com. So the other day, as I'm recording this on a Sunday afternoon, so my editor can stitch this all together for y'all, I had a very kind of drawn out and dramatic Friday night and a Saturday morning where I had a great long talk with my father and my therapist about how and why I do what I do. Living my life, following the things I do. And it was a lot. I think I talked for like an hour straight with my therapist. Literally got to the end of the session. I was like, shit. But there was a lot of, great expounding, kind of getting the poison out, and also getting some of the stuff out in front of me so that I could see what the problem was. It was very fascinating. Again, highly implore therapy. It's fucking rad. Nothing like being able to get what's off your chest without any of the repercussion of having to see your friend the next day for coffee and have them have that look in their eye. But also, and I hope y'all are blessed with as great a father as I have, who has the time or makes the time to sit down and listen to you and just let you talk, give some good, weathered and wise advice, and just be there to listen and care. Kind of feel like I was kind of rapsing with Sodic. I'm sure I just butchered the shit out of that. I know I did. I can't think of the other words. But it's just interesting to note that for me at least, out of the worst moments, not the worst moments, but when we feel terrible, not because of what we did, but because of life, that when we're able to talk about it and just take a moment and really look at it and feel it, we build to our best selves. It reminds me of the story I think I got from like a park ranger about the way sequoias work with fires. I believe it's sequoias, cannot grow until there's a wildfire because it clears away the brush and like the suckers and all the nonsense that stops the tree from growing, whether it's surroundings or parasites. And after that, it can grow. And I feel like, and I'm hoping that's what I'm on the precipice of. I noted my father a moment ago listening to me, and that is a gift I can never pay back. But what I can say is, happy birthday, you old motherfucker. It's a day late, but I know you're listening to this, so you've earned it. Good job. I'm proud of you. I love you. And I can think of no better person to herald at the beginning of my podcast other than you, old coot, whatever that means. Anyway, some new and interesting things are coming to the podcast. It won't be this episode or even the next, but doing a little bit of restructuring. Maybe you notice, maybe you don't. But if you do and you think they're cool, hit me up on Twitter at likeikes or send me a line at passionpeeves@podcast@gmail.com. And if you don't like them, do the same. Or if you do like them, do the same. I don't know. I don't remember which order I said those in just now. But I'm very curious on your guys' input. I would love to hear what you think. I've recently talked to a couple past guests and a couple of close friends, and they've given me some interesting advice and insight as to ways they think I could improve this product. And as that's what I want to do, I'm always keen to hear more. So if you have thoughts on the matter now or later, please always reach out. So this week on the podcast is a lifelong friend of mine. Met him playing Magic back over, or no, not over, around a decade ago, actually. When I moved to the Bay Area down from Humboldt County. One of my early tournaments of major success. For that one, he let me stay on his couch, and the rest is kind of history for me. But um, a great dude, and I hope you enjoy this interview that I have been haranguing him to come on and give for quite some time. So please, without further ado, enjoy the podcast episode with Josiah SKALLERUP. Take it away, past me. All right, folks, on the pod. He's seen the same concert over 50 times, has gone there and back again if there is California and back was Michigan, and once danced with a Jewish bridal party on BART at midnight. Would y'all please put your hands together for Josiah SKALLERUP?
Hey, hello. How are you doing out there?
I'm doing good. I just realized I have never pronounced your last name. Did I get that right?
SKALLERUP. I think
Nice.
you got it.
Close enough if it wasn't there already.
Yeah.
Oh, just like being close enough. What decision in your life are the most... That doesn't even make any sense, but we're going with it. What decision in your life are you the most proud of making?
You know, I'm still working on that one. I think it's in my future. I've been learning a lot of things along the way, but I'd say I've made more mistakes than proud, correct decisions at this point.
The best is yet to come. Love it.
Yeah.
Well, on the same kind of wavelength, to maybe bolster your spirit, what's the proudest accomplishment that you've made that the fewest people know of, perhaps?
Well, that one would probably be playing in the Magic the Gathering Pro Tour.
Hell yeah!
I did get second place at a Grand Prix playing with two friends, Eric Severson and Ben Whites, and that did qualify us for the Pro Tour. I think the only people who know that are people who are in the kind of Magic sphere and some closer friends and family who I may have bragged to about. But there's people in other spheres of my life who don't know about that one.
Yeah, that was a banger.
Yeah.
What's the silliest thing you believed as a child that you now look back on and just giggle?
That one would be that the adults know what they're doing. You know, when I was a child, I really thought most adults had, once you're an adult, you know things, and you know what's going on. You're an authority figure, etc. But the older I get, the more I realize we're all just
winging
it.
Yeah.
Jinx on that one for sure.
The kind of funny one is I work in I'm a tutor at a charter school, and I feel like now kids do that too far the other direction. We've like overcorrected as it like the youth in society. There's so many kids that are like, I know better. I'm like, you really fucking don't. You're talking so far out your ass. I had a kid today, full stop, be like, dude, I'm losing money by coming to school. I'm like, no, you're not. I just watched you try to read. You definitely aren't losing money coming to school, asshole. You could not sound out that sentence, and you are 17 and drive a car. That is horrifying. He's just like, spa. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me right now? He's just like, dude, I'm losing money by being here. Why am I even here? I'm like, I know exactly why you're here right now.
The kid paying the tuition?
Huh?
Or the tutoring? Is the kid paying for the tutoring?
No. So I work as a on-site tutor. I am just there the whole day because it is it's not learn at your own like pace or anything like that. Well, I guess that's actually more accurate. So I work in a warehouse where a bunch of kids come in. this is very much the last school that any of these kids have a shot at before they are just done and maybe go and try to get their GED. Probably
Oh,
not.
I see.
And so I'm just kind of there. There's like a couple of teachers and me, and we just help the kids try to get through work. And so I'm just always on site. I am, paid. I'm paid hourly. I'm not getting hired out to do tutoring just yet. But
This sounds like the type of place where the kids would be challenging their adult
yeah,
teachers and
very much
tutors,
so.
though.
It's adorable how much they challenge them. There's so many kids that just like say the most wild shit. It makes for great content that I'll remember later on if I did like a stand-up tour or something
Kids
like
say
that.
the darndest things.
Oh, dude, like it's unbelievable the shit these kids say. I'm just like, you are out of your mind. It's so nuts. And part of it is being 36 and these kids are like 17. It's just like a different timeline we're living in.
I think by the time I was 17, that myth had started to unravel for me. It was more like, earlier childhood.
For sure. I still believed, I think, into my early 20s that like, no, parents got it. Like, these adults, they got it going on. It wasn't until like I hit 21, 22 and I was around like other technically adults. And I was like, you're 30 and stupid as shit. How do you own a house? It was just like it's flabbergasting. And when we're relaying such moments, I found myself using some frivolous language. When conversing with your folks and not wanting to potentially make Graham eyes go too big, what's your favorite G-rated curse word to use in such occasions?
Lately, I've been using the word shucks.
Yes!
I like that one. I have actually been trying to keep my Twitch stream kid-friendly, and so I've been leaning into the non-curse words lately.
I'm such a bad-minded person that when you said I gotta keep my Twitch stream kids friendly, it made me like more suspect, not less suspect. It's like kids friendly.
Why?
Josiah, what are you doing? It's like an ice cream man. You just like look at him, you're like, I don't know, bud. I don't know. My brain is full of bad thoughts. That's the summation of what I just said.
Sure. For me, it's mostly because many of my friends who are viewers they're basically parents now. So sometimes their kids are watching or in the room.
And
so
just like it's thoughtful and nice. Also, I feel like the best curses and indictments are the ones that don't use curse words.
Yeah, it's a little more creative, and it's just honestly, it's like I will swear with the best of them at times, but if I'm watching a Twitch stream and the streamer is just constantly dropping F-bombs, it just is a little off-putting.
Definitely has diminishing returns, to be sure.
Yeah.
Like, the best to me is still like when Gordon Ramsay doesn't curse, you're screwed worse. Like when he's like, you're a donut, you're just like, oh, like it's like a mortal wound.
It's even worse sometimes. Yeah. I do remember that when we would play Magic at Eudaimonia in Berkeley, they had little signs on the side of the wall that said fiddlesticks, and then it said please refrain from swearing around the children or something. And that's one that I don't actually use fiddlesticks.
It's a banger though.
I like the word, and I've been trying to work that one in. I haven't internalized it yet, but that's one.
I feel like it's got too many syllables. I do love it phonetically, but to get it, I feel like in moments of anger, you either have to have
want a single syllable swear,
1 to 2 tops, or like 10. It needs to either be like a whole phrase, or it needs to be very succinct. It can't be like fiddlesticks is kind of like lending itself towards the middle, which I feel like is the uncanny valley of non-swear words.
Yeah, you might be right about that. I've switched to son of a gun.
Ooh, good banger.
Fudge. Shucks.
Shucks is so good. It's just like it's got the sh of shit and the ux of another word.
It does. It's kind of a mishmash, and in the end, it just sounds kind of cute and
it's lovely,
funny, and
Well, very much teeing me up. What's your favorite non-musical sound?
That would have to be laughter. I love to laugh. I love to make people laugh. And everyone has their own unique laugh.
Yes.
They're kind of like each one is a different special snowflake in a way. And,
Yeah.
it's, um, in a way, it's like laughter is just like, joy spontaneously erupting out of somebody. And
Yeah.
I find that very, very cool.
So speaking of joy spontaneous erupting out of someone, I'm going to give you a fun fact that might be mildly off-putting for some of the elder audiences in the crowd. There are
Mhm.
two things that we do sporadically, noise-wise, that they don't ever have the exact same cadence. And laughter is one of them. The other is the sound we make when we orgasm. When
Oh,
they are
really?
true, when they are truly funny, when you are truly just having the best moment of your life,
Lost in the sauce.
when you are when you are lost in the sauce, the moment is not. It doesn't follow an exact cadence. It is not hyper repetitive. It is the wavelengths don't move in a tried and true fashion.
I did not know that, but that's
Yeah,
an interesting
it's one of those
factoid.
things that if you slow it down or speed it up, it sounds like different animals, and it doesn't have the same kind of thing. So that's my fun fact for the day. Do you have any fun facts that the audience could enjoy as well?
I don't think I do.
Look, gasp. Well, perhaps you might have a favorite hot take for the audience to just watch burn.
Let's circle back to this one.
All right. All right, I've got an oldie but a goodie with a new twist. Fuck Mary Kill, fork, knife, and spoon.
Oh, um, would can we can I just marry the spork and then
I just want
I
to
get marry the spork, fuck the knife, kill the spoon and the fork? Can we do that? Does that one work? No, I would
That
say
sounds like that sounds like the culinary equivalent of the fucking oh, what was that movie? The Human Centipede. You're just like, I'm gonna put them
yeah,
together and then get rid of the corpse.
yeah, exactly. I would say uh fuck the fork, marry the spoon, kill the knife. I don't really need the knife. When I get served a knife at
Not where I'm
a
going.
restaurant, I usually pick up the fork or the spoon and then the knife just sits there and never
Watches like
really.
a creep.
Yeah. So we can kill the knife. The only knife I need is like an actual sharp knife, a butcher's knife, a bread knife, a paring knife, that kind of stuff.
For a
When I'm
second there,
actually cooking.
you were starting to give off serial killer vibes.
Well, you started with the human centipede thing, but yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
I mean what you know.
Yeah.
When traveling to such said establishments, what's your favorite drive time jam?
My favorite drive time jam, well, it's always something different. I I'm always looking for my new favorite song, and so I have potential picks in a listening homework playlist, and then I'll have that going a lot of the time, and I'm just waiting to hear my next favorite song.
What's the last one you remember hearing that you were like, oh yeah?
My last one was Empress of the Damned by Gunship.
Damn. Sounds like a video game I would play all day.
It is kind of video game music. It's like synthwave and the lyrics are kind of about this woman boasting about all her like cyberspace accomplishments and statistics. So yeah, you're not too far off on
Well,
that.
we're talking boast and we're talking music. If you were to ever take part in a WWF styled event, what would you want your walkout song to be?
Well, my walkout song has been the same for a while now. I've walked out to it many times, and I actually named my music blog and music Discord community after this song. And the song name is What Else Is There by Roixop. And the song it features Karen Anderson from The Knife. And it's very kind of spacey, atmospheric. It has it conjures up kind of this like very ethereal vibe to it. And beyond it being one of my favorite songs, I really like the name of it. What else is there? Because it's a perpetual question that you can
Yeah.
ask yourself. And I really, that's one of the ways I live my life is constantly questioning and searching, seeking, finding. So it kind of sums up my personality and my day-to-day life really well.
Well, as someone who searches and seeks over your journey, what has been your best or most memorable piece of advice you've received along the way?
I can't really think of anything on this one, and I'm gonna say it's because the advice I've received just hasn't been that memorable.
These punks out here don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah, I think a lot of lessons I've had to learn myself, and I don't know, the advice either wasn't given to me, or maybe I wasn't ready to hear it yet,
Mm.
which I think is often a thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, how many, like 100%, both of us as kids, and I'm sure plenty of people out there listening, got told, solid gold advice when they were kids, and they was like, "Nope, you're old and dumb," and then like continued like doing our own
Yeah.
thing, and
So,
like had to touch the hot stove like a dozen more times. Before like, damn, shit really burns.
yeah, exactly. And like your story about the kids at your school, you know, case in point.
Yeah. Well, since I brought it up, I'm curious to know what's your favorite meal to make just for yourself.
My favorite meal these days is veggie stir fry. I love busting out the wok, throwing in tofu or tempeh, a bunch of veggies, whatever I have on hand or whatever is in season, or even just a bag of frozen veggies, frying it up, getting some brown rice or quinoa going on the stove. Then when I'm done, mix it all together, maybe throw some spicy kimchi on top, dash with some nutritional yeast, soy sauce, maybe some hot sauce or whatever else. And just good, warm, hearty, spicy, tasty. That's my favorite go-to meal.
So I'm someone that hasn't had uh wow, my brain just went completely blank. Tofu. There we go. I haven't had tofu that frequently or that recently.
Hmm.
How do you recommend in a dish like that? Do you chop it small? Do you leave it big? Do you try to get it like super, fried where it's kind of crispy? Do you want it a little bit raw? How do you recommend for a tofu uh, you know, lightweight or, newbie? How would you recommend
Well,
they
that's the great question about tofu that's hard to answer because tofu is a very mysterious food. It doesn't really have a taste of its own exactly,
Yeah,
but
it's like
instead
manna from heaven.
it's a very good like taste sponge. It will soak up whatever you cook it with, whatever you marinate it with, whatever oils or spices you throw in the mix. And you can use it so many different ways. You can fry it up. Sometimes I'll just fry it up and then, eat it with rice and soy sauce. Sometimes, in a stir fry, you want it in smaller cubes. Sometimes you want to just scramble it up to make kind of like an egg-like scramble type meal. The main thing though I would say is if you are going to cook it what you need to do is you need to press it. And I even got this kind of goofy one trick pony contraption for my kitchen, which is like a tofu press. It's like two pieces of plastic in a box that has a spring on top, so you can press, like you squish the water out of the tofu, because it cooks way better if it's not like soaking wet when you start cooking it. And you
Oh.
can do it just with like paper towels or like, regular towels, I guess, and just kind of flatten it, squish it, try to squish the water out. But you can get a thing like that. I have a tofu press that'll press it out, and then you don't have to. It's a lot easier that way. But that really is the trick to cooking tofu, is pressing the water out before you start cooking. Then after you start cooking, it really depends on what you're trying to do with it. It's so versatile, and you can do it in so many different ways. But I will say it's generally not like, unlike like a meat dish where meat is often the focus,
Mm-hmm.
even though tofu is kind of like the meat replacement as far as like from a protein perspective, it's generally not really the flavor, the centerpiece of flavor. It is more of a supplemental thing, I feel like. And I mean, I guess it gives you a little of the umami in the mix, but it really is, it's such a chameleon. So it's one of those things that I would, if you were trying to do more tofu cooking, I would recommend, you know, looking up some recipes to start, and then, experimenting,
Mm-hmm.
realizing that maybe the first couple of times you're not going to nail it, but you have to go on a journey with it, I feel like.
So, as someone who's clearly gotten their money's worth, what have you found is surprisingly worth the money, or what is something that people just do not need to buy?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, right now, you're sitting at my computer. I would say worth the money is additional computer screens. In both my work from home and my play at home experiences, having more than one monitor, and God forbid, having more than just a single crappy laptop screen, is so worth the money. I can work a lot faster. I can multitask. I can, anything having to do with the computer, I can get done. So it's so much easier to read, to view things, to browse, to
Yeah.
game, to spreadsheet, um, organize information, whatever I happen to be doing. It's so much nicer to have a nice high definition, multiple high definition screens in front of me. I would say it's very much worth the money.
Yeah. As I am currently using two, I concur with this message.
I actually recently went from 2 to 3, and
Oh, shit.
yeah, now I'm at the point where, like, before I was like, oh, I can never do more than 2, or I could
Yeah.
never have fewer than 2.
Yeah.
And now I'm at the point where, like, I don't even know if I really want to have fewer than 3 now. But
it's addictive. You're like
yeah, it
Tank
kind
in
of
the
is.
Matrix.
Yeah, exactly. That's me on any given Sunday.
Well, speaking of the Matrix, what's your last or most memorable dream?
Oh, well, I did have a dream last night, and it was memorable because I remember waking up and thinking about it, but it wasn't so memorable that I remember it still now.
Classic
But
dream.
yeah, I don't put a lot of stock into dreams, and I honestly, I don't dream that often because I smoke so much pot that a common side effect is you don't remember your dreams, or you don't dream as much.
Really? I didn't know
Yeah, if you hate dreaming, become a pothead and you won't dream anymore.
that. You'll never dream again. Isn't that like supposedly bad for you to not dream, or is it
It's
that
not
people
like
who
you don't
smoke?
enter REM, but you just don't.
Oh, okay.
I think you're still dreaming. You just don't
You just don't
really,
remember it at all. Yeah, yeah.
or it's. I'm not sure what's going on. I don't think it's a bad thing, but yeah,
He says hopefully.
yeah.
Please.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. We would have known that by now.
Yeah. Given the opportunity, what's your favorite story to tell?
A favorite story to tell. I don't really have any, just one. Usually it's whatever the latest one I've got.
What's the
So
latest one you got?
the latest one I made. The, the that's a good question. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I really have one right now that I would want to share. Sorry.
No, you're all good, homie. So you talked earlier about how you work from home. Do you have a favorite industry secret or term that's only used in your line of work?
Well, I did get laid off recently.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm enjoying my break. Um,
Yay!
um, I would say in my previous line of work, it was the same answer I had to the worth the money. Multiple computer screens. It gives you more real estate. You can read and write emails so much faster. And
I think I might have you might have misheard me. Sorry.
oh,
I was asking, what's your favorite industry secret or term that's used? Is your industry secret like having 3 screens?
yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought you were saying like that was like an industry like requisite or something like that. Okay, I didn't realize like you got that
I
just
wouldn't.
straight for work because of work.
I'm sorry. What was that?
You got the third screen because of work. I thought the third screen was just like incidental, and then you're like, oh, I love this, and like that was for work specifically though.
It kind of was because I
Wow.
had 2 screens,
Yeah.
and then when I got the job, they were like, "Well, here's $500 to spend on your home office equipment," and I couldn't really think of anything else I wanted or needed, so I got another screen.
Fuck it, one more screen, I guess.
Yeah, but it actually was very useful because the type of like customer service I was doing involves lots of like copy pasting. It's
Yeah.
really
No, that's one of the things I love about. I have 2 screens. I'm not to your level yet. I'm not that awesome, but I do have 2 screens. And doing like when you are like writing a paper on one and using the other one for reference, it makes it really easy to
exactly.
like copy resources and stuff like that. When you're doing gaming, like we both do, it
Yep.
makes it easier. You can see the Discord on one, and then you can
Yep.
all that stuff. It just makes it so much easier, so much cleaner. A lot less
Yeah.
alt tabbing.
Yes, alt tabbing is bad. Just moving the mouse to another screen it is good. And um being able to have up like Zendesk where the emails are on one screen and then having, whatever admin
What's
panel.
Zendesk?
Zendesk is basically what customer service people use for email. It's like a super email program.
Oh,
It
interesting.
basically lets you um it's just like a way to receive and organize and share emails with like a team of people. Multiple people can easily reference the same email, and it lets you kind of sort and dig through, hundreds or thousands of emails quickly, like prioritize them, respond to them. I think there's probably other applications that do that as well, but Zendesk was the one that I'm familiar with. It's very funny. It's named Zendesk when
Because
after
all it
reading
does
customer
is ruin my
emails is
Zen
very
state.
not Zen. Yeah. But it's kind of classic, like, Slack is like a work program.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, oh, we're slacking off. No, we're at work.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then Discord, where you go to have very friendly conversations with your
Yeah.
friends and not cause a bunch of discord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting now that you say that, Discord. Because I do think of Discord that way, but also like Discord comes from discourse. I
Yeah,
guess is
but
discourse
Discord is
inherently
like
negative?
bad. Yeah,
Yeah, but
isn't that
I'm
funny?
wondering if no, but discourse in and of itself is just written or spoken communication. It doesn't have any. It doesn't have any
Yeah,
like kind of syntax to it.
it's a similar word, but the definition of discord is a disagreement.
Yeah, no, like totally. Like it's just interesting. I hadn't.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, that is funny. Yeah, disagreement
Like,
between
let's
people
name our app where people chat
or a lack of harmony.
disagreement.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
It literally the verb is to disagree. Yeah.
It's like it's almost too apt, but it's just funny that they went with that one, right?
Yeah, that is really. I wonder what the other ones were for that. That's wild. Well,
Yep.
before we go down that rabbit hole, let's go down another. What's your
Okay.
favorite book, comic, cartoon, or graphic novel that you think would either be a great big screen adaptation or a terrible big screen adaptation?
Well, it's funny you should ask that because they already did it, and my answer works for both sides of that coin.
Hold on, I want to guess which one that is. So, did they do two different adaptations and one's terrible and one's good?
No, they
Okay, they
just
did
did one.
one and it's both bad and good.
Yes, depending upon who you ask or where in the series you ask them. And it was recent, somewhat recent, the last decade or
Game of
so.
Thrones?
Nailed it.
Yes.
The Song of Ice and Fire, which is my favorite book series that I was into before the show came out.
Before it was cool.
Before it was cool, I was into it. And I even did this thing where I read the first three books and then the fourth book came out. So I reread the first three books and the fourth book. And then the fifth book came out. I reread the first four books and then the fifth book.
Damn.
Now we're patiently waiting for the sixth book.
For the last 1,000 years.
Yes. And I'm a believer. I think George is going to finish it. I think the haters can step off and he's going to get there. We just have to have patience and faith, and it's going to be great. But yes, I think they did a great job with the show for the first, X amount of seasons, and then they did start to lose the plot a bit. I will say I have not watched the final season, which is
You
the
are
one that
missing
everyone hates,
so little. I can't.
because I want to see the real ending. Read the real ending first
You want to see
before I
with your
go.
eyeballs, yeah.
Yes. So that's how I'm going to play it. But I am glad that it was done, and for the most part, I think it was done pretty well, considering how epic of a story it is and how many moving parts there are. The fact that they didn't really drop the ball till the end is like, you know what? I'll take it.
Yeah, I think it was good up until I think season 6, where it was a turning point for me personally. But
as a book reader, there was a lot of like it started out being very like almost word for word with the books, and then it became, they had to keep making more and more concessions, like combining characters into one, or like changing little bits of the plot, and some of them were like,
and some of them were technically positive.
Yeah, some were like, okay, I get it. Like,
in the book, literally Daenerys gets off a dragon and shits her pants.
Yeah, like they don't have to. But then there's some other things that they did that were like really cringe.
Oh yeah,
like
for sure.
There were a few like. Speaking of Daenerys, like there were multiple scenes that in the books were consensual sex scenes, and then in the show they like turned them into non-consensual, and it was like, why?
Yeah.
There was no plot reason. There was no like money saving reason or like time saving reason. It just like made no sense. It was like only.
So I can't speak to then, but I know that verbatim they changed multiple like trajectories of characters, and the producers said the reason was because fans guessed the ending and they wanted to throw them off the trail like it was a fucking like they were like trying to rob a bank and escape the cops. It's so stupid.
And they made it worse because they didn't want people to have guessed the real ending.
Which also, I've said this once, I'll say this 1,000 times. The show and fucking George R. R. Martin has said as much. The whole entire series is based off the War of the Roses. Full stop.
Yeah, that's a loose.
No.
Loose basis.
No. there are characters that are like direct connections. They are like they
Well,
have their
yeah,
exact thing, and that's no shade. I mean, like history's awesome. He has said as much. It like there is work
it's a
for
big
it.
inspiration
Yeah, it's
for him.
no. I mean, like he adapted it, and like different characters are using different timelines. But there's certain characters that are it's this character they're gonna die because they do this, and like they do, and that's fine, and
Uh-huh.
that's I think that's great. But like literally, that's how the fans were able to guess like one of the big plot points that they changed is
Oh,
people were
I
like,
see.
I'm a history professor at blah blah blah. This is what this character is. This is how this is gonna happen, and they're like, holy shit. They just like wrote it different because some guy who was a PhD figured it out. It's like nobody cares, dude. Like this is all spectacle.
Well,
Damn
I'm
it.
I'm hoping that the books finish strong. I
Oh, I'm
think
sure
that
they will.
he's taking a lot of time because he wants to get it right,
Yeah.
and we'll hope that he gets there.
Yeah. George is gonna do I think George is gonna do the fans correct. Like
Yeah,
his work has been very good.
yeah.
So like I mean
I think he can do
all the
it.
failings of the show is the people that ran it are morons. And like they're actually having a tough time getting work, which I feel no sorrow for because they're kind of everything I heard is they were kind of like
Yeah,
dicks and they're like not decent people. So
I've heard that
get
as
fucked.
well. So yeah, they it's just a weird circumstance, I guess, that they kind of fell into this and then like did a
It
good job until it was really on them
yep.
to like take the ball and keep running with it, and then they dropped the
They just
ball.
dropped it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Well, to switch the subject from bad things to bad things that you shouldn't have, Josiah, what is your favorite everyday temptation?
Favorite everyday temptation?
If you'd like an
Um,
example, I have 1,000.
hmm. I'm not sure I should answer this. I'll leave it at that.
All right. Circling back around, do you have a favorite hot take for us on the way out?
Oh, the favorite hot take. No, I wish I had time to think about this one.
You are totally fine, my friend.
Um, yeah, I don't think I got one. Oh well.
All right. Well, before we throw it to our commercial break, if you could have listeners to this podcast hear one song of your choosing, which would it be?
That one would be La Femme d'Argent by Air. If I don't have a favorite song, but if I did, this would be it. And it's the pinnacle of French down-tempo synth lounge music. It has a perfect bass line, it has a perfect build-up and payoff at the end when all the different parts are moving together and are threading around and amongst each other. It is simply divine, and I would highly recommend everyone listen to this one.
Awesome. All right. Well, with that, we're going to throw it to our sponsors. So please stick around. But hey, if you've got all the doodads you want in life, why not take a minute and enjoy La Femme d'Argent by Air? Or if you really wanted to hear a song from a previous episode, check out the playlist on Spotify. Passionate People and Preposterous Beef Podcast, Song Rex. It's a long title, I know. Don't worry, there's a link in the description. Either way, see you in a bit. Do you ever find yourself doing a mundane activity with nothing to keep you from gouging your eyes out or sticking a pencil through one ear and out the other? Uh-huh. Well, then perhaps I could introduce you to music. Music comes in a variety of different types, flavors, and colors. Theorists say that it's the best thing to introduce to your life since food. So go out and get some and make your life just a little bit more bearable. Welcome back, everyone. So, Josiah, what's your passion, my guy?
So my passion is music, and I am not necessarily a musician exactly, but my passion revolves around listening to music, finding new music, dissecting new music, curating new music, sharing new music, writing about new music, rating and ranking new music, and all various ways that I can kind of weave those things together.
So
That might
you keep referencing new every time you said music, you said new music. Is that music
Yes.
that has just come out, music that you have just come across, a conference of both?
Yeah, well, mostly music that has just been released. I, you know, time is continually marching forward and there's always more music being released. And while, like, there's obviously plenty of music to hear throughout the decades or the centuries, but there's something specifically intoxicating to me about finding a new favorite song or album or music video or band or artist that has just been freshly released into the world and other people may not know about it yet, including myself. And so
Just gotta spread the good word.
yeah, so that is kind of my main passion, is not just finding it, but spreading it, I guess, championing it.
Yeah, that's awesome. When did you first remember really wanting to like share music? Like, how early on was Josiah SKALLERUP being like, "Yo, have you heard about this band?" You know, for instance, I would venture a guess one of your like kind of early loves, given how many times you've seen them and how passionate you are about them, might have been like Fish.
Yeah, so I would say my love of music and new music predated my knowledge of Fish. And, when I was growing up as a kid, my parents played lots of music for me. The Beatles, Talking Heads, New Order, Billy Joel, kind of the classics type stuff. Um, and, I got a pretty healthy appreciation for that kind of thing. But it
What
wasn't
was your? Do you
until,
remember like early favorites like that you got shown? What were the ones that you were if you had a drive time jam, if you're going to share it with a friend that your parents were showing you? Because I mean, that is awesome that your parents were showing it, and also that's like where a lot of us get our music, especially early
yeah.
on. What were some of the ones that you remember being like, oh, this is tits?
Well, let me go back to what you first asked. There was a point in middle school age when, I was like 14 ish, 13 maybe, when I transitioned from getting my music from my parents and started getting it from, the radio, MTV, my local record store. I remember, waking up on Saturday mornings and going down to watch like MTV, like top 20 music videos of the week countdown or whatever. And
Hell
that's kind of
yeah,
where a lot of my tastes started to, you know, they grow from.
yeah.
And I definitely remember that one of the very first ones that got me was Mr. Jones by Counting Crows. And I'm not sure why this one spoke to me, but it really did. It had this kind of classic feel to it, but it
Mhm.
still felt fresh. It had like this Americana, like hominess to it, but it also was really kind of esoteric and mysterious, and it really earwormed me. And I remember going to my local record store and getting a cassette. This was like pre compact disc,
Yeah.
and I had a little Walkman. I would put the cassette in my Walkman, and I would walk around my neighborhood listening to this album over and over again. Literally the only one I owned, the first one I bought. So all I could do is just listen to it on repeat, and I gained a very like intimate knowledge of it. I delved into the world of this band, and that was really the entry point for me as like my own, like, oh, I picked this, not like
Mhm.
somebody else picked it for me. And I mean, I guess technically MTV picked it, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you go there, you buy a record. Did like
Cassette.
cassette? Sorry, yeah, yeah. You buy a cassette. You're not that old. You buy a
Yeah.
cassette. I was just like taken back when you started talking about vinyl. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. You buy a cassette. Did you like play it for any of your friends and see if they enjoyed it?
That's a good question. I didn't, because I didn't have way to. Well, no, that's not true. Okay, so I did have a friend, my next door neighbor, uh, Bobby Avery, and he had his own Walkman too. And at one point, this is after I had bought a few more cassettes, so I had a little collection going. I
Yeah.
did loan him the Counting Crows album, and uh, I remember being annoyed after a while because he didn't want to give it back. So
he's like, man, Josiah, you were right. They're awesome. Can I like sit back? He's like, still listening to it.
Exactly. That's kind of what happened. And I couldn't be too mad, but at one point I did have to be like, okay, I want this back now. Yeah.
Buy your own, damn it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so amazing.
Yeah.
That's so cool that like your first, like one of your first early experiences of sharing this newfound glory, this like awesomeness that is, a new, love, this beauty, this hit kind of backfired, and you still went down this way. Like you got bit by the snake and you're like, nah, this apple looks really tasty though. Like you just went back to the tree again. That's so rad.
And it speaks to how it was a different time where, physical media, there's one copy between us. Only one of us could have it at one time. It sounds
there can be only one.
So foreign today when, you just share a Spotify link and then any number of people can click it.
Yeah.
I guess you need to be a paying customer, but
yeah,
still
though.
Yeah.
So we're doing this. This is junior high, right? Or
yeah,
or in junior high
into high school.
When was the first time you went to a concert?
That's a question I don't have a great answer for. My parents would take me to local concerts in the park when I was a child, and I remember those, but I don't remember the music very well. Obviously, I was so young. And then even when it came to going to concerts on my own as a young adult, I honestly don't really remember. There were a handful I went to, but I don't know which one was first. And I think a few of them I actually didn't even enjoy that much. It wasn't until I got older, into my mid-20s, that I really started really appreciating live music and seeking it out on my own. I will say part of this is because I was born and raised in northern Michigan, where beyond some amount of local folk things, there wasn't a lot of like popular music going on, popular concerts. So I just didn't have, I would have to find a way to get a ride or drive hours and hours. So it wasn't really accessible to me. So I don't have a very good satisfying answer to that one.
So you talked about like sharing this with people and try like, and I'm kind of, my brain is kind of getting blurry for some reason. So I'm not sure if we were talking about it here or if we talked about it like in the pre-recording, but you talked about like DJing and sharing this with people. I know I'm a part of your Discord. You have these awesome interaction things that I haven't been able to do for a while now because of work and other activities where you invite people on and everybody kind of gets a chance to be in the DJ seat, so to speak, and share these new tunes and play it through. What's the name of the program again?
Oh yeah, there's a few of them, and it's very interesting because there's kind of a turf war going on between them right now.
Okay.
Yes, there's much drama. But the two more popular ones right now are called Turntable Live.fm and Reverb.one.
And you use the turntable.fm one, right?
That has been the one we've used, although I'm thinking of switching.
Uh-oh, we got a scam.
To enlighten our viewers, it's kind of like a digital passing of the aux. You get a group of people together and you join a chat room, and then you can jump up onto the decks, so to speak, and you play a song, and everyone in the chat room will hear it, and you can chat about it. You You can make your little avatar bob up and down if you like it. You thumbs up, you thumbs down, whatever. You can take the song and add it to your own playlist. But then when that song's over, it passes to the next person on the DJ deck, and then now they play a song. And, it keeps going as many people as you have in the room, everyone playing a song, and then, it goes back to the beginning again. And it's actually it's a very novel experience and activity
Oh yeah.
because in addition to like getting other people to hear a song you like or hearing songs other people like and potentially discovering new music, there's a very, I mean, obviously, if you have a DJ, they can try to curate a vibe, right? They
Mm-hmm.
want to play a song and then they want to play another song that kind of plays off of that song, right? Whether it's a theme or the vibe, sonics of it. A good DJ knows how to kind of curate this journey for you, right? But when you're on turntable or reverb, it becomes a collective experience. And so now it's a shared responsibility amongst everybody to curate this vibe. And it's not like you're required to. Obviously, anybody can throw a train wreck and, go from smooth jazz to heavy metal or something like that. But
Raise his
there's a
hand in
very,
solidarity.
yeah, but when it does work and everyone is kind of vibing, like you hear a song someone plays for you, you're like, oh yeah, I like this song, but it reminds me of another song that I really like.
Yeah.
You put that song on and the vibe continues. And then the next person in line, they could do the same thing. They're like, oh yeah, I like this song. It reminds me of this one. And if you just keep doing that, it's this shared collective vibe experience among everyone. And it honestly can be very addicting and very cool and very unique. And I found that is obviously this thing was a little more popular during the pandemic when everyone was stuck behind their computers or at their phones all day. But it's just a very unique experience that I found was like something worth building a little bit more of a community around. And that, it played into my interests that I already had, but kind of added a new little wrinkle to it. And so that's been something I've really enjoyed doing lately.
So, with this passion and with your kind of love of sharing new music, wanting to work with new music, setting up these curated opportunities, do you see this as something more than just a love of sharing new music? Do you ever see this as like a job or a progression past what it is now?
Well, I would say when I was younger, I may have, but at this point, it's more of just a community building and kind of a passion project right now. When I was younger, I did have some designs in, becoming a music writer. I have written album reviews and concert reviews for various publications. I had a long running music blog of my own. But over time, especially over even the last 4 or 5 years, I've realized that people just don't actually want to read words about music. They just want to hear it. Maybe they want to be told what to listen to, but they
Mm-hmm.
actually don't generally want to sit down and read something about it. And the fact that now you can just pick any album and listen to it with a couple clicks instead of having to go down to a store, spend $20 and
Yeah.
potentially not even like what you bought, there's less need for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's not really a job anymore. Even beyond the few very skilled, hardworking individuals, most people who do this sort of thing at quote unquote as a job, uh, most people aren't doing it as a job. It's a passion project for pretty much everyone at this point. And, and now even with like the Spotify AI DJ or whatever, the quote unquote algorithm, with the rise of that, there's even less demand for somebody telling you, hey, you should listen to this
Yeah.
because instead the algorithm just does it. And like, obviously, that's not something everybody wants, but a lot of people don't really care and they're fine with it. So it has transitioned into more of just a project for me. I do it for kind of love of the game. And I found a way through Turntable, Discord, Spotify, and a few other spaces to just, share this love with others without really trying to make it something monetizable or something that it doesn't need to be.
So, when you say project, do you have anything that you kind of want to do in that space, or any, I don't want to say achievements because that's not what this is, but is there anything that you would like to accomplish or strive towards? Any kind of either activity, project? Is there something on the
Yeah.
horizon for you in this regard?
Well, right now I have a new project that I started this year that I'm hoping to continue. And so far it's going well. Previously, my main outlet for sharing new music was I would create a kind of bespoke playlist at the end of the year, which would be 100 songs from the previous year.
Mm-hmm.
And what I attempted to do would be on, January 1st, I would start blogging through all those songs and I would write about each one and, one each day and then, or maybe two each day. And at the end of X amount of days, you'd have this full 100-song playlist that was kind of a journey throughout the previous year, all my favorite songs of various genres. But over time, that became kind of too much. There were two things wrong with it. One, it was too much work for me and I wasn't able to keep up with it. But the second thing was it was a little too late. And by late, I mean, if I discovered a song I really liked in January, I didn't want to wait till the following January to kind of
Yeah,
put my
right
stamp
about
of
it.
approval on it.
Yeah.
So my new project now is this weekly playlist where what I do is just every Thursday I post 5 new songs that came out from the previous Thursday. And it's just kind of an evolving playlist that every week there'll be 5 new songs. So anybody who, when they finally get around down to it and being like, okay, I want to hear what's new, what does Josiah recommend? They can just click onto this playlist, start it from the top, and it'll be basically freshies at the top. And then, anything
Hold on,
you've missed
you're
will
listening.
be
These are five
down the bottom.
songs that have literally been put into the ether since the week prior.
Exactly. And
There's that.
I've
Okay,
been
there are that many new songs of value each week that come out.
yes. And in fact,
Holy fuck!
some weeks I will be like, man, I've got 8 I want to share, but I'm going to narrow it down to 5.
How many albums do you listen to a week?
That's a great question. I was wondering if you'd ask that. So the that's another thing. Also, I can say something about. Well, I would say it's an average between anywhere between 5 and 20.
Holy shit!
And it does a little. It's a little bit much, I would say. I have been slowing down a bit lately, but it's not all album listening. So
Okay.
my process right now is I found a website which is called Spotify Release List, and it basically lets me put my Spotify information in, and then I can click a refresh button and it will spit out every song that's been released that day by any artists that I've previously liked a song, like drop the heart on Spotify. So every day I go to this website and I basically have a new playlist of anything new that came out by somebody who I know I already like. And then I'll listen to that and I'll pick out any of the good songs. Then in addition to that, I will go once a week, see what new albums came out by artists I like. And I'll add anywhere, like I said, between 5 and 20. I'd say I probably average like 10 to 15 is probably more like it. So like 2 a day. It's not really that much if I'm doing it daily. It sounds like a lot, but my email job, I'm just sitting here at the computer. It's really easy to actually go through 5, 6 albums a day, if I wanted to while doing my work.
Sure.
And this is where the extra screens comes into play. It's
Bring it
very
back
easy for me.
around.
Yeah, it's very easy for me to be like, oh, I'm working along, sending emails, reading emails, but I can see the album making progress on my other screen, and I can easily kind of internalize, oh, I like this song. Oh, I didn't like this song. I like this album. Didn't like this album.
Yeah.
And I've got a big spreadsheet, of all the releases in it, keeping track of what came out, what I liked, what I didn't. I've got playlists up the wazoo, so I can like pull out new songs I like. Make sure they're kind of organized so I don't forget them. And then from there, it's actually very easy to find 5 new songs that I think are worth hearing per week. And some weeks I'm like, you have to make the tough decision and be like, okay, well, I've got 8 I want to share this week, but I'm only going to share 5. But I think back to our friend Mark
Sophie's
Rosewater.
choice again.
Yeah, I mean, it is Sophie's choice sometimes. But as Mark Rosewater says, restrictions breed creativity. This is the kind of artificial restriction I put on this project, 5 a week, and I kind of like sticking to that. But that's the way I'm going now. Instead of trying to write about music, I'm just putting it in the playlist and letting people click on it. And um, also, instead of getting people to click a new playlist every year,
Mm-hmm.
this one they can just save it once and then it'll be on their sidebar forever. And hopefully whenever they're jonesing for something new, they'll remember to click there, and then there'll be 5 fresh ones staring them in the face. I will say part 2 of my answer to this question is our Discord does have a group of people who are at least slightly as fanatical about new music as I am. And whenever anybody finds a new album or a new song, they drop it in the Discord, and that's another great way that I can find stuff or other people is I have these little minions who are like, hey, listen to this, listen to that. And over time, I've kind of gotten to know people's tastes and, what aligns with mine or what doesn't. And every week, everyone is allowed to, drop their ratings on new albums, between 1 and 10. And then every week I will average them out and we drop a little list. So we have our own like kind of weighted ratings. And so that's a fun way to kind of engage in community, see what other people are into, see what people liked and didn't like, and then see if there's any kind of common like favorites amongst the group. And so that's something that we've been doing for about a year and a half now. And I'm hoping to keep that going and potentially expand that to more folks who are open to doing it.
So often in movies, they will show somebody who is obsessed with music. They're like, oh, this album wasn't that good, but the B-side and so on and so forth. Like, I'm trying to remember that movie with John Cusack. Um,
High Fidelity.
High Fidelity. So
that's one of my favorite movies.
Awesome. That ties directly into this next question. How is your passion shown correctly or incorrectly in like film and TV and other media?
That's an interesting question. I will say I do resonate with John Cusack's character in High Fidelity. And I even worked at a record store for a while when I was just out of high school. And
hold on, a brief foray into that. How was that for you?
It was actually it was pretty great. I started working there, and I was I was younger. I was kind of more shy and reserved, but I did have a passion for music. That's the same record store I bought that original Counting Crows cassette, and I think my dad kind of got me the job. He knew the owner, and he recommended me, and it ended up working out. At first I mostly just checked people out, organized stuff. But over time, I kind of came into my own. One of the older employees kind of mentored me a bit. And, he played a lot of music for me that he turned me on to so many bands that I didn't know about. He did a lot of like, like School of Rock style, like impressioning upon me, which, I'm very glad to have. And I even kind of got my first girlfriend because of this job, because this woman would come in and she would be like, "Oh, hey, you know, let's talk about music," and I'd be like, "Okay." And then after she came in and wanted to talk to me about music for like 4 or 5 times in a row, and the other employee kind of nudging me, I was like, "Oh, okay, maybe she likes more than
Maybe
this
she wants to
music
talk
here."
about more than music.
Exactly. So that was kind of jump started my love life in a way. So
That's
I have a
so
lot to thank for that
beautiful.
job. But there is a funny story about this job where I I'm not a morning person. Let me start with saying that. But somehow they eventually gave me the keys and started scheduling me for opening shifts. And you'd
Big mistake.
go down to the store. Yeah, I was supposed to go down to the store, open it up at whatever 10 a.m., 9 a.m., whatever it was, get it all set up. But I one day I was supposed to open the store and I slept in, and I ended up not getting down there till an hour or two later. And the owner found out, and he was like, "Hey, Josiah, I heard the store didn't get open in time. Don't let that happen again." I was like, "Okay, yeah, no problem." Well, sure enough, another time I was supposed to open and I didn't get there in time. And this was even a day that the new releases were like supposed to be dropped off, but I wasn't there. So, the UPS truck drove away, and we didn't have the new releases that week because of it. So the owner was like, "Hey, Josiah, we like you as an employee, but this can't happen. So sorry, we're gonna have to let you go." And I was like, "Oh man, really?" And I was pretty disappointed about that. So I ended up getting a new job at like a hardware store across the street, which was a miserable job. I hate hardware, not fun at all. It's not like music. And the manager there hated me. Um, they hired somebody new at the record store, and I had my friend at the record store. He was like, "We miss you, Josiah. This new person, they just don't really have the passion. They're not very good with recommendations for customers." And eventually what they did is they decided to let that person go and hire me back. And
When the
so,
vibes are good enough, it doesn't matter how great you are at your job.
yeah, kind of, it was one of those things. And they just decided to not schedule me for any opening shifts, which was probably a good idea.
They played around your one weakness.
Yeah.
So, returning to the original question before we sidebarred each other twice, when it comes to movie and TV, such as High Fidelity, what do you think is shown correctly, or which movies do you think show it correctly and which don't?
Um, I think that is one of those things that movies generally do a pretty good job of, because there really is no wrong way to appreciate music. Everyone kind of does it their own way. Some people like just losing themselves in a record in their room. Some people like to dance. Some people like to DJ. Some people, like to go to concerts. Some people like to play music, form bands, write music. Some people like to do karaoke. And I think it's one of those things you can't really do it wrong. Um, because there are just so many ways to appreciate it. There's no wrong way. And I think whenever I see a moment in a movie when music's being appreciated, I'm I'm generally like, all right, yeah, that works for me. I think that's accurate.
Even when it's like that kind of snobby douchery of like the Jack Black character, for instance, in High Fidelity, where he's just like shitting on people, won't let people buy certain albums because they're not good enough, they're not cool enough. The reason they like
Yeah, I
something is
mean
lame.
that's a trope. That's a type of person,
They
and
exist. I had to work with them.
yeah, I wouldn't say it's that's not the healthiest way to go about it, but it's certainly accurate
Oh,
to
okay.
some extent. High
Happy and
Fidelity is a
sad to
good
hear.
one. Another one is Empire Records. It's
Yeah.
another '90s movie about record store that's really good. I will say, okay, the most inaccurate part about both these movies is that record stores existing at all. This is not accurate. They're just it's not a thing anymore, which is a little sad. But computers.
Sag.
Yeah.
What would you say is the biggest misconception about music and music kind of I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but fanaticism by the wider world? What do people get wrong in your experience about people such as yourself who just love music?
I don't know. I don't think there's anything to get wrong, I guess. Um, I mean, there's, some people, I don't know, make some assumptions. Like, I guess they'd say, oh, like you must be, spend a lot of money on records or something. What, I'm just all digital at this point. Um, the fact that I'm digesting that like freshly released so often, the physical media kind of just is not practical anymore. Another one might be like, oh, you must be like a musician. And like, well, I did play, some drums and piano when I was younger. It's not really something I kept up with. So I don't really know any of the like theory or technical stuff beyond like, I know kind of the basics, but I don't really know anything really in depth. Um, I don't know. I can't really think of anything that anybody really gets wrong about it, but it's such a like, I don't know. The passion is just being an appreciator. There's no really wrong way to do that. So there's no way to have a huge misconception about it, I guess.
What would you say is your favorite non-obvious aspect to your life's passion in regards to music? Like a lot of people don't like, so one of the kind of like the fun things that people probably don't know about, like for instance magic players that we both are, is it's kind of cathartic, at least for me. I guess I shouldn't speak for everyone, but like putting away it, for me, I have my cards sorted in a very specific way, and putting them all away so that they're all in their like proper place is kind of awesome. Like cleaning up is its own reward in this case.
I would
That's not
agree
a
with
lot
that.
something a lot of people would know. It's something that's hard to know unless you're a part of it or that like specific
Hmm.
kind of person. Is there another non-obvious aspect like that for your love of music, your love of listening to new music, and your love of spreading new music?
I'm not really sure. If there is, it's not obvious to me either. I
It's
will
non-obvious
say,
to everyone.
I think it's like, for me, I think maybe this is sort of obvious, or at least it's not that obscure. But when some people will go days, weeks, months, years, even before
Mm-hmm.
between like having like finding a new favorite song, and for a lot of people, I would assume it just happens randomly. Like they're not seeking it out, and it just has to come to them, and the magic has to be there. But for me, who's like kind of aggressively seeking out my new favorite song every day, I get to have so many new favorite songs. And it's honestly like, I don't know if everybody gets this, but
Yeah.
I will sometimes have a physical reaction to hearing my new favorite song for the first time. I will get like whole body chills that can start kind of in my neck, my shoulders, my back. It's like this tingling feeling. It's like uh, one phrase I've heard described, it's described as aesthetic chills, but I will get that, and it's usually happens when I hear a new song that as I'm hearing it for the first time, I'm realizing it's going to be one of my favorite songs, or it's my new favorite song, and my body will have this just like euphoric physical reaction to it, and it's amazing. And so it's something that I'm just constantly looking for. I don't know. I
So
guess
you
I'm
get like
not
a
sure if that's
body high to like
yeah,
a musical song. That's fucking rad, man.
yeah.
That's
It's really
awesome.
rad, and
I
it's something
vaguely
I'm
know what you mean. Like I listen to so much less music than you do, but I've had a couple times where like, you hear a new song for me. There's like a handful of them I heard. I'm just like, I don't get a chill, but I find myself looking like a drunk old rocker doing that kind of like lean forward, lean back thing, just like eyes closed, just like
Mhm.
body's like moving unconsciously. And you're just like, like you start making those like unconscious like hums.
Yeah, that's a reaction some people have. That one, that's a good one. And yeah, for me, I also do a lot of typical things. I'll bob my head. I'll maybe dance a bit, or sing along, all that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, I don't know how obvious that is, but it's definitely something that happens for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, to go from radical to ridiculous, Josiah, what is your preposterous peeve?
So my latest preposterous peeve is the TikTokification of so many websites these days. And as as much as I love music, one thing that I have begun to loathe over the years is this short form, like viral vertical video, just as a format. It doesn't even matter to me what is being shown, but the format itself has become sort of repulsive to me. And if this was something that was just on TikTok, I could just not install TikTok and not navigate my browser to TikTok, and it'll be fine, right? No big deal.
Right.
Let people enjoy things. But TikTok has been so popular and so quickly that it seems like every other website is trying to turn into a version of TikTok. Facebook and Instagram have these reels, YouTube has shorts, and it's very hard to avoid now when nearly every social media website or app has some sort of TikTok encroaching upon it. And if it was something you could opt out of, sure, whatever. But you kind of can't if you're using these other websites. And, you know, I kind of get it to an extent. Um, in some way, it's sort of a fight between like long form media and short form media. As someone who is an album lover, um, or I enjoy movies. I enjoy a good long like YouTube video that you can kind of dig into. These shorter form nuggets of like entertainment are just, I have such a preposterous peeve about them. They honestly, a lot of it feels like just dumbed down, lowest common denominator content. It's designed to grab your attention and then leave you wanting more, constantly scrolling or swiping.
Yeah,
And
it's like an artificial. I mean, this is I feel like this is redundant, but it's like an artificial drug. It's you've taken
yeah,
something you've you've nicotined art.
yeah, exactly. It very much is, it plays into our addictions. And the problem is like, one could say consuming any type of media, entertainment is this way to an extent. But I really do think there's a difference between, more long form stuff that just feels more artful than these little bite sized chunks that are ultimately just garbage. How many people walk away from watching a bunch of reels or TikToks or shorts, and then they're like, oh man, I feel so fulfilled. I feel like I've gained something. I feel like my psyche has been elevated. No, everyone regrets it. They call it doom scrolling.
Yeah.
Like occasionally there'll be, you'll find something funny or informative, but a lot of time it's not great. And, tying this into my music hobby, I have noticed that like, there's more focus on songs now than albums. Albums are kind of almost slowly becoming an antiquated form of music listening.
Yeah.
playlist is kind of the king now, and the album is more like, oh, this is where you would find the song that you put on the playlist. But even a full song now is almost too much for somebody to sit through. When the TikTok is like, okay, this song needs to be 30 seconds. Or,
There's
and
definitely that aspect to the creation where they will make hooks that fit within a TikTok or are more likely to use
yeah.
like a
And
TikTok.
now you have the music labels who are basically all but forcing their signees to write not just like, oh, we're going to take the chorus of your song and put it on a TikTok, but it's like you need to write a song that fits in the TikTok, or like the chorus needs to happen within 10 seconds. And if you notice a lot of, especially like in pop music, if you notice the choruses come sooner, and sometimes there won't even be verses, or there'll just be one verse.
Yeah.
And, to some extent, it's like, whatever, let musicians do what they want. And if they want to game the TikTok for, to get exposure, let them. But if so many of them are starting to be like encouraged to do this and like change the way they would otherwise write a song just so it fits in a TikTok, it's honestly kind of concerning. It's kind of sad. And, maybe this is my old man yelling at cloud moment, but it
Hey
feels,
man,
it doesn't.
that's what this bit is for. Yell, scream, shout.
Yeah, so I really don't like it, and this is just one aspect of the whole thing. But my peeve really is the whole thing. There you see YouTube creators who would otherwise release like 1 hour long video essay per month, be very informative, essentially like a little mini movie. Um, nice production value, very well thought out ideas, thought provoking conversations. And now they're saying, oh, well, YouTube doesn't pay me to do this anymore. I'm not making enough money. Instead, I need to make some piece of shit short every day. They're like the money is basically informing these creators what they need to be making, and what the algorithm is telling them to make is basically worse content. So it's like the entire internet community is being dragged down together. The viewers, the creators, all of us, we're all being dragged down into this garbage pit that is TikTok. And this is even before you get into like the politics of it, which I'm going to admit I'm not that well versed on. Some people are like, oh, China is coming to like dumb down America's youth with TikTok. It's like psychological warfare, like the Cold War stuff. I looked into a little bit. Some of it may or may not be true, but even if it's like totally incidental, um, like that is happening to an extent. Like,
Think I
if
found your hot
you,
take.
is this my hot take? Okay, we finally found my hot take. I don't think it's that hot. If you do some Googling, you can find people who are like trying to recover from TikTok. They're like, I literally can't sit down and watch a movie because after 3 minutes, I will be checking my phone.
Yeah.
Like, people's attention spans have been ruined, and they can't, not even 3 minutes, like 30 seconds. They can't sit and watch a video that's longer than 30 seconds without looking at their phone, because their brain has been rewired to only be able to accept like
But
the
I mean that
dopamine in this
also was
specific.
that I mean that not to defend TikTok or anything like that, but to explain it. I mean I'm sure that was the case when we went from like books to radio to movies and shit like that. I'm
To
sure people,
TV,
yeah,
to
to be
internet, to phones.
before
Sure.
all of this audio visual stuff. I am sure, like before records and shit, people's
Yeah, but
attention span must have been crazy long.
People would go to, they would go to a play, a theater.
Yeah, they'd sit
And
there for like
it's,
hours. And
well, but then
I mean, that's
also
only
you
the
could go
rich
to
people
like,
too.
you could also go to like, whatever it was called, the cabaret, or like the,
But I mean, these things
the go to the
were,
circus. There would be like
yeah,
little
for sure. But these
bite-sized
are
bits of
things that
entertainment.
happened. I mean, back if we're going back that far, you're doing that tops once a week. You're not doing that every hour of every day. So like
Well,
the exposure to that, like you couldn't rewire somebody's brain with going to the circus 2 times a week. It's just like there's not enough time. Also, the circus is like hours at a time anyway, so that's not even like short form. But like even
I
if
mean,
you're
like the
going to like,
different attractions might be just a little bit here, a little bit there, like a variety show kind of
sure,
stuff.
if you're walking around like the whole like rigmarole, sure, but I mean that's still like people didn't do that super frequently back then, so that's not even that like. But I mean, as time has gone on and we've had more and more access to this stuff like this, I think you'd see that happens over time. But I mean,
That
yeah, that's a scary thing that you're talking about. I mean, not to bring it back to myself, but I've seen that with the kids that I work with. They're just like, all right, like literally, I'm working with a kid the other day. I'm like, all right, if you do not in the next X amount of days, and it's like 6, you need to finish like 3 like homework assignments. Otherwise, we're gonna drop you, and then you
mhm,
will never come back to any school ever. This is like where the last school it's gonna take you. You're done. Your mom's gonna be
mhm,
pissed and probably whoop your ass. You need to
mhm.
finish 3 things. He's like, okay, I'm in it. I'm in it. Let's go. Let's go. 5 minutes later, I'm like, all right. So you see here, I look over and he's like staring at his phone. I'm like, what the fuck? So like,
Yeah.
know what you mean, but yeah,
No,
it's
and I've done a little bit of digging around the internet. I'll go to like the teacher subreddit, and it's just page after page of teachers complaining about kids that are addicted to their phones. And I'm not trying to blame the generation
no,
because it is like an addiction. It's
yeah.
like people can't
We
help
we
themselves.
just dodged. We were born, however many years prior.
We
We just
kind of no, we kind of were, and that this is an aside I'll get into that I find really interesting. The generation before us, the boomers, didn't really grow up with computers
you do
or
realize
phones.
there's like a generation before the boomers before us, right?
Well, I'm kind of an honorary Gen X too, so I straddle between Gen X and millennial,
Oh,
so
okay, so
elder.
it's literally just the generation before you. Yeah.
Yeah, so Gen X is close enough with elder millennial to fit in here anyway. But the boomers, they grew up with 4 computers and phones, right? So they were naturally were going to be kind of dumb to them and had to look to us to be their tech support or whatever, right? Gen X, elder millennials, even mid-tier millennials kind of grew up with computers. We, I was in high school before cell phones, but I came up with the internet. I learned to type when I was like in middle school. Um, I spent a lot of time. I remember using the internet before there were pictures. Like I remember
Yeah.
just text-based internet. I remember being like, navigating through DOS to like launch my games or whatever.
Yeah.
So
You're totally
like these were
taking me
things,
back.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Windows 3.1 or like 3.0, 3.1, like basically the very beginning of Windows. So we came up with this and we kind of had to learn it just to do our stuff, right? I remember, I took a few computer classes here and there, but I was never like classically trained. Most of my computer knowledge just came from me being curious, having access to it, and dinking around, right?
Mhm.
And that honestly got us, I feel like, our generation pretty far to where, like, if something goes wrong, I'm pretty good at troubleshooting. I can dig through like system menus. There's lots of things I can do to like figure out how something works and use it that the boomer generation doesn't really have. Well, anyway, not to make this aside too long, it's coming we're coming around to the point where the zoomers and maybe some amount of younger millennials are on the other side of this spectrum where you would think at first blush you'd be like, oh well, they came up with phones and already a thing and computers already a thing, they're probably really good at them too, right? No, they're good at using them, but as soon as something goes wrong they have no idea how, like, what a file is. They don't know how to like attach something to an email. All they know is like tappy tap phone work. As soon as the phone doesn't work, they don't have any idea of how to, like, what steps to take to like try to fix something. So it's like this very strange generational phenomenon that you and me were born into and came up with that is not true for the generations either side of us. And I find that very fascinating. I'm very curious to see how that will play out
Yeah.
as time goes on.
Definitely
But
kind of
anyway,
feels like a kind of like a generation who doesn't understand. Yeah, like they're like privileged in a way that it's kind of like a rich person who knows how to be driven in a car but not drive a car.
yeah,
They're like, I've got
exactly.
like, yeah, Jeeves, take out the Rolls Royce. We're gonna go for a drive. He's like, sure. And then Jeeves quits, and you're like, I want to go for a drive. And then you just look at the car. You're like, but how does it go?
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what it's like. And this is kind of a phenomenon that I've seen that is happening. And it's very, very interesting to see where it goes from here.
Well, while we pontificate and percolate on such high-minded thoughts, we're gonna head to our second ad break. But don't go anywhere, because when we get back, Josiah is gonna enter the lightning round.
Oh, boy.
Do you need 100 pounds of butter? Come on down to Company Street Company. What if I need 30 gallons of olive oil? Come on down to Company Street Company. But what if I just want one flatless bird roasted for a reasonable price? Come on down to Company Street Company. Okay, but just come on down to Company Street Company. We have everything for a better price, free snacks, and employees who don't want to kill themselves or you because we treat them like fucking human beings. Yeah, but yup. Even just get your ass down to Company Street Company, where the only sketchy thing we've ever done is enable frozen orange juice hoarders. And we're back. Josiah, are you ready to enter lightning round?
The lightning round.
I believe so.
All right, buckle your seatbelts and keep your arms inside the ride at all times. Josiah, is there a price for you to give up your passion forever?
No.
Make the food or do the dishes?
Do the dishes.
Did you ever cheat on a test in school?
Oh, yes, I did. And I got caught.
Pineapple on pizza or fist fight?
A pineapple on pizza, definitely.
You're having the best day of your life. What happens next? Another amazing thing or something terrible?
Something terrible, for sure.
Is professional wrestling cool or lame?
I'm not going to say lame, but it's not that cool.
Do you create your own thoughts or do you just listen to them?
They appear out of nowhere.
All right. This one's just for you, baby. Album, shuffle, or playlist?
You know, I would say album, but I'm going to go with playlist. Shuffle though is no. If we're doing fuck, marry, kill, shuffle is kill.
Is there such a thing as a perfect piece of art?
Yes and no.
Have you ever had a crush on a cartoon character?
I don't think so. Not that I'm willing to admit here.
Are you out of touch or is it the children who are wrong?
It is definitely the children who are wrong.
What is more important, freedom or structure?
Freedom. Definitely freedom.
Would you rather have tentacle arms or kangaroo legs?
As a short person, I would say kangaroo legs.
Human in a world of Muppets or a Muppet in a world of humans?
Oh, God. I really think they should not be mixing. Just all of one or the other, please.
Would you?
Whoever decided to mix them, Jim Henson, I love you, but whenever you put a human in there, that was a bad idea.
You're like a Muppet Nazi. No intermingling.
No intermingling.
Would you rather meet an alien or a ghost?
Alien, I think.
Are hot dogs tacos?
I reject the notion. Hot dogs are hot dogs, tacos are tacos.
Skydiving or deep sea diving?
Oh, neither, but if I had to, skydiving, I guess, because at least I could breathe.
Subbed or dubbed?
I'm gonna say dubbed. I can't do subtitles.
Do you read in the bathroom?
Not usually, unless something's going very wrong.
Would you rather be stranded in the desert or at sea?
Oh, I mean, the sea is just a salty desert, right? It's the same thing.
Do you believe in karma?
Mm, yes and no.
Do you pee in the shower?
Oh yeah, always.
A world without music or a world without holidays?
Well, without holidays, obviously, that's the biggest gimme for me.
Would you rather eat chocolate flavored poop or poop flavored chocolate?
A poop flavored chocolate, I guess. What kind of question is that?
And lastly, could you eat 37 of your favorite food for $5,000 in a 1 hour time limit?
37. I mean, maybe my favorite food is a grain of rice. So sure.
Well, either way, regardless of what your favorite food is, congratulations, you've survived the lightning round.
Hey, all right.
Now, as a reward, my gallant guest, I grant thee a lightning round question of your own to be echoed until we get bored of it. What you got for us, homie?
All right. My question is, when you get a song stuck in your head, what do you do to fix it? Do you listen to that song or do you listen to a new song?
So, like, the Buddhist in me says you should listen to that song. You know, there's this quote from Buddha that is like when he was having his like effective equivalency, and I'm sorry for any Buddhists out there to make this comparison, but Buddha has a Christ-like circumstance where he's like trying to meditate, and there's this demon or whatever fucking with him, and instead of pretending like she doesn't exist, he just tells her that he sees her, and then she like leaves him alone. It's this idea of meditation. Instead of trying to constantly run away from your problems, you acknowledge them and then they dissipate. So that's, I think that's what you're supposed to do, but what I do is listen to a new song.
Interesting.
What
I
do you
think
do?
I am with Buddha. I confront it. I listen to it.
Head on.
But then I will immediately listen to another song. So maybe it goes with the theme of my answers to this lightning round, where many of them I was saying neither or both. And this one I would say both. One then the other. It's just the type of guy I am, I guess.
Well, as both of us got to get out of here, is there anything you want to plug, shout outs you'd like to give, places people can find you or your content?
Yeah, sure thing. If anything I mentioned about this music addiction I have, it sounds like something you'd want to get into, you can join me and many other music nerds on my Discord, and maybe Ike will share the link in the description or whatever, but it is discord.gg/what else is there. And you can join us there. You can share your latest musical infatuation with us, or if you want, you could see what we're posting about and listening to. You can join us on the turntable parties. You can join us in rating and ranking albums, or you can just lurk and see what's going on without saying anything if you prefer.
All right. Thanks, Pass Me. And thank you, Josiah, for being my guest today. And a special thanks are due to my editor, Richard Ashford, and my composer, Joshua Gibbons. And thank you. Yes, you listening at home, wherever you found time to appreciate this. Time is the most precious commodity we have, and I appreciate you spending yours with us. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, like, or just share it with a friend. Every little bit does help. Or if you already have and are out of episodes to listen to, don't worry. We put out a new episode every Monday at midnight on SoundCloud, YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes at Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves Podcast. And a very special thanks are due to our patrons, Sibella Yellow. If you'd like to join such illustrious ranks and have your name read aloud, just head on over to patreon.com/passionate people and preposterous peeves podcast. And remember, folks, if days are numbered and songs are sung, at the end of the day, I think we all have won. So please stick around, because great things have only just begun.